Okay, top three things. That's an interesting question. I think the main thing, and the thing that I'm always aware of, is the main factor to Cory's success is the group of players that we have at any one time. Without a group of brilliant and dedicated players, then you just can't achieve anything. So that's the first thing. I mean, I've had a number of players come into and out of the band during my time, and each of them have made such a fantastic contribution. Both in terms of the play-in and the commitment which they give to the band. It really is the most important thing, the personnel we have around the stand. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think the band and I have developed a really quite a strong bond together, which I thankfully, in my case, I've really kind of found my feet with Cory, and I feel very confident in what I'm doing and the direction that I'm taking things with the band. And I think the fact that I've got that confidence, and I know that I've got the backing of the band in that confidence as well, and the trust, I think that does enable us to reach new levels as we move forward together. And then the third thing is, I mean, like everything that's a success, you do rely sometimes on just good fortune, really. So I'm a great believer that your kind of luck balances out over time. So I can remember my first regional contest with Cory Band was just a disaster in terms of the result. We came 5th, which was my worst ever result with Cory. And I can remember thinking afterwards, well, you know, I've only been here a few months. That they're gonna fire me. That's the end. That's the end for me and Cory. But they let me do the European Championships as well a few weeks later, and then we won the Europeans. And of course that changed everything, and all my thoughts and everyone's thoughts of the 5th place at the Welsh Regional were just completely out of our minds. And so it's that, the reason I highlight that is because that kind of shows how the fortune kind of evens out over time. So it's things like that coming at that particular time is the good fortune, and I think that's another of the reasons why we've been able to build on the success at Cory. There's always seems to be good fortune round the corner. I'm definitely going to choose Rob Nicholson for this, who is our principal B-flat tuba player. I'd love to hear him play Under the Boardwalk, which is one of his little party pieces. And after he's played it, I then think we're both going to jump inside his bass and sail away from the island to be rescued. So on the subject of open adjudication, I've actually changed my mind over the years. And when I was a bit younger, maybe 10 years ago, I was a great advocate for open adjudication across the board to provide that kind of level of transparency. And I do actually think there are a huge number of occasions where open adjudication is really, really appropriate, like in the lower sections, for example, particularly when there's young players potentially involved. Then as an adjudicator, I know it really helps me to know to whom I am addressing the comments that I write. So you write with a slightly different tone, depending on, you know, the age of the players, for example. But I think as you go up the sections and the higher you get, and the more that you're adjudicating bands that have a reputation, if you like, an expectation of what that band's going to actually be like, then the open adjudication aspect really does bring a distraction in. Which is not helpful really in deciding the outcome of the contest. If you've got a band on stage that you know has a great reputation and you're expecting the performance to be fantastic and it falls below that, then you'll always be more harsh on that band as a human being, no matter how hard you try not to be. Then if you have a band that you know is maybe the underdog and they play an absolute belting performance, then you know, as a compassionate human being, which we all try to be, you just cannot avoid rewarding that band because you know they've played at, you know, over and above what they can do. So I think it's more questionable the higher up you go. I really encourage contest organisers to think about it for the lower section bands and youth, but the higher up you go, let's keep it closed. The best performance I've conducted with Cory that didn't win is easy to answer. It's the British Open 2017 when we played Fraternity. Possibly the best performance that I think I've ever conducted with Cory. It just seemed to have absolutely everything. We loved the piece told a great story. It was a wonderful, wonderful performance from the players at Cory. I've never seen a standing ovation before at the British Open, but that's what we had. All of the pundits, without exception, were saying, Cory's won, who's come second? And we came third. No. So when I was growing up in the brass band world, the one person who had a lot of influence over me has to be Roy Newsom. He was the musical director of the National Youth Brass Band of Great Britain through the years that I was in it. And he was also the professional conductor of the Sun Life Band, which was a band that I joined in 1991 when I came to study at the University of Bristol. So I always seemed to have an affinity with the way he did things, and he was very, very encouraging to me as a young musician. Gave me lots and lots of opportunities. But I really liked the way that he was always professional, and he always acted with great integrity, with the music as the central driving force for everything that he did. So he was a great influence. So if I had a choice just to play one track from one CD, then you might expect me to choose a brass band CD, but I probably would choose music from a different genre. I'd probably often reach for the music of Billy Joel when I just want something nice to listen to. One of my favourite tracks of his is The Entertainer, and I love the way that particular song is structured, and I love the way that the lyrics work so well with the melodies, and yeah, the way the texture builds up throughout the song. So I'll go with The Entertainer by Billy Joel. Would Cory Band ever consider going to WHIT Friday? We probably wouldn't at the moment, but that's because really I'm not an expert in WHIT Friday or marching or anything like that as well. So I just wouldn't be confident in providing the leadership that the band would need to present itself in the best light at that particular event. Sorry. My favourite brass band composer remains, always has been Philip Spark, without a shadow of a doubt. He was, when I was a youngster growing up as an early teenager, I mean, his music just absolutely blew me away. And I can remember writing a letter to him, sort of a fan letter, if you like. And I was just amazed when he wrote back, and we actually started corresponding together by, traditional mail as it was in those days. And then after a few years, I met him as well, and we became quite close friends, and we've collaborated on a lot of things. But I mean, he's developed over the years as a composer. But I just think his imagination is endless, really, and I love the way he scores for band. I love all his ideas. So it's Philip Spark in terms of a composer. Then I would always go with Goff Richards. I mean, Goff Richards, essentially any piece of music that I come across that has the name Goff Richards at the top, I know is going to be absolutely brilliant. And I think we all know arrangements like his Disney Fantasy, which is, I think, really absolutely faultless in terms of how to make an arrangement for brass band. But there's such a long list of arrangements that Goff has done over the years that, yeah, he would be my absolute top of the pops in terms of best arranger for band. How tall am I? Well, it's amazing how many times people ask this question. The accurate answer is I'm 6'5" 3/4. In terms of admiring other bands, I'm because I know kind of how brass bands work in the UK and beyond, actually. And they start with this great sense of community. I think I've got great admiration for all the bands at all levels, right from the top section right down through the lower sections, right through to non-contesting bands as well. Any bands that have got the hunger to carry on and survive, and there's so many, there's hundreds of examples. Bands that have people that really drive things forward, people, the volunteers that go way beyond the call of duty and are putting in hours and hours of time and in a lot of cases money as well to make the thing work. I mean, I'm just in awe of any band that kind of has that as a backup, and there are so many fantastic examples of bands, and I visit dozens and dozens of bands each year, and it's just great to walk into an organisation where you can really feel that buzz and feel that kind of sense of drive and momentum. So any band that has got that and harnesses that, of which there are many, I have great admiration for. If I could take Cory on tour to a country that the band's never travelled to yet, that's easy for me to answer. It will be Japan. I've got a real connection with Japan, and I lived in Japan for 2 years. My wife's Japanese, and I visit Japan at least once every year as well, so I've got some great friends and great contacts in Japan. So it's something that I've been trying to arrange for the band ever since I started with Cory, and yeah, hopefully one day we'll make it come true. Well, being the #1 ranked band in the world is just something which no one in the band takes for granted at all, and we know how hard we have to work to maintain that ranking. And I think it's true to say that it matters enormously to everyone in the band. And you know, nothing lasts forever, although it's been 12 years now. And you know, every rehearsal I can see the hunger in the players to remain as the best in the business, and it's certainly a hunger that burns really strongly within myself. But like I say, I can see it in all the players, and for that reason, I think it's very important to all of us. Not really in a position to answer that question. I can tell you who's the worst player, but you didn't ask that. In terms of singing, I mean, I do ask the band to sing occasionally, and collectively they make a good fist of it. But what I always say to any of the players is, where I stand, as long as I can see a player trying hard, opening their mouth wide, even if there's no sound coming out at all, then I'll never challenge them. So I think the worst singers in the band can probably hide behind that little instruction. Great. Who's the worst player? What a question that would have been, eh?